action in the streets of Toledo and San Francisco and in the shop floors of Flint
Where are we?
and all of that kind of stuff. We started to see some of it at the Goose Island Republic Door and Steel. There's a lot of, Howard Zinn talks about the unreported resistance. There's a lot of interesting things going on in shop floors, in communities. All the people of my generation wanted to move quicker. I think millennials are getting a wake-up call on, and that this experience that you still have to fight, even with a Democrat in office, is something that takes a bit more time. And there's so many lectures I can give about FDR and LBJ and JFK. They have to experience it themselves. They have to see that the shit still goes on with Obama. And they're seeing it, which is good. And hope.
Yes.
I think the subject tonight was supposed to be, is Obama progressive? And I think if we boiled the ocean, we should have stuck to 2 or 3 or 4 subjects that were important to the American public and define progressive in each of those endeavors. Because of that, I'm not walking out of here with any nuggets of insight, unfortunately. Not to say I didn't agree with some of the points you folks made. The second point is that even if he was progressive, the American public can't absorb it. And I think you alluded to that somewhat, John. That's my point.
Oh, I disagree with that. I think the American public can absorb it. It's just not being delivered to them, for one thing, by the corporate media and that kind of bias that you have. But also it has to do with building movements. And I think it's disturbing in the whole healthcare debate how effectively the progressive movement is being, and even Obama in some ways, is being out-organized by a bunch of right-wing crackpot birther base swastika sign wielding nutcases. And they're guiding our public debate right now. And that's something that does need to change, that we need a progressive movement, because if that fails, if the birther base of the Republican Party, the right-wing nuts, win that argument, we're not going to get, more dissatisfaction and single payer next year. We're going to get no more health care reform for another 15 years. That's, I think,
the left tends to fall into the election trap even more than the right does, and that is this belief that meaningful politics is that your side wins in this candidate. And one of my problems with Progressive Democrats for America, and I was trying to get them to join them, is that every 4 years you guys suck all the energy into getting behind this candidate, which then in turn starts standing people down. I wish it wasn't that complex and dialectical, but I did start out saying, actually no, to the answer to the question, whether it's a progressive. And also said exactly what you said, it might not matter all that much. What Obama is a politician, and he's got a masterful politician around him. And the politics, as determined largely from the top down in our corporate managed democracy, are a relatively narrow spectrum, and they're not particularly progressive. If we could change those institutions through a direct action, a social movement from the bottom up, and also through a movement to change the political culture and make it more responsive, we could incentivize Obama. Politicians are narcissists. John Edwards wrote an incredibly nice song. My God, I mean, literally. So appeal to their narcissism. Our left progressive agenda on issue after issue is majority sentiment in this country, and people don't even know it. The corporate media doesn't allow them to know it. You tell them if single-payer health care is majority opinion, but really I thought I was insane. No, it's what 68% of the population.
Okay, we're going to have time just for one more question, and then we're going to have to wrap up. But both of our wonderful speakers here have books for sale. So would you like to, the last question, Paul, you answer first? Then, John, you can have the last word.
It was aimed mainly at John. Both of you can answer. If Obama is a progressive pragmatist, why not say I agree with single payer and I want to do it now?
Who's talking?
Let's get this movement mobilized right now, and I'm calling on this movement to come together. And then, I can be pragmatic and support it after. Why come up with this public option?
Okay, Paul, would you start so John can have the last word, so we reverse order here?
You're saying why doesn't Obama do that?
Well, I know why he doesn't do it, but say if he is a progressive.
Well, it's the knee-jerk instinct to say he's bought off and he's paid for because of all the money. He did get $19 million from the health industry, and then what did I have? $39 million from finance, insurance, and real estate, and that includes a lot of people that are invested. And that's a big part of it. It's just how that works. They don't let you, even if you're in. Right now, what's he running for? He needs a second term. And the other thing, Obama's running for a second term, and he's also running for Mount Rushmore. One thing, I mean, we say he's a pragmatist. He's pragmatic about a lot of things. Like he's pragmatic about staying in power. And he is absolutely convinced that he has to have a health care bill on his resume if he's going to get the full-scale, full-on promotion up there to the Black Hills of South Dakota. And I actually agree with Charles Krauthammer on this, and it fits his profile in Springfield. Obama wants lines on the resume, and he doesn't think he's going to get one if he went with single payer. I mean, and given the balance of forces ideologically in this country with the right-wing lunatics that John's talking about, you know, he might be right about that. Unless he's prepared to mobilize vast sections of the working class in some sort of revolutionary upsurge to do that, I can't imagine he would win on that. So he is a pragmatist, though.
John?
I have to say, I disagree with this idea that sort of the excuse for Obama is that he's being bought off by corporate interests, this $19 million from the healthcare industry. That leads people, I think, to believe that, oh, there's a handful of healthcare insurance executives that are handing him $19 million. No, what he means is that out of his vast sums of money, a small percentage, which is $19 million, came from people who work in the healthcare industry. Now, a lot of them are executives and lobbyists and that, but a lot of them are also nurses and doctors, and a few of them might be janitors, although I don't think they're given a lot of money who work in hospitals. So this idea, in some ways, I think Obama's finance of his campaign was a brilliant kind of innovation because so much of it came from the internet and non-traditional sources. He really, I don't think anyone could plausibly say he's bought off by any one particular interest because he got so much money from so many different interests. But on the issue of why he doesn't bring single payer, here I have to disagree with Paul that the issue of whether there's a majority, strong majority favoring single payer, it depends on how you frame the questions, but they're really, it's frankly dubious, especially if you use the phrase single payer, you get maybe 30% approval. If you say Medicare for all, you get a much higher number, but the fact is there's very strong public support for a public option and all that, huge numbers. The support for a single payer is much weaker, but as we see how hard it is to even get a public option where there's unquestioned enormous support for it among the American public, where it's a no-brainer in terms of reducing costs and all of that, how hard that alone is to get. The idea of doing single payer is really, again, this kind of quixotic quest. You know, it wouldn't happen, and Obama's enough of it, has great political radar, as I think everyone here can acknowledge. He can tell when something like that is not going to pass, and the fact is that the only way you're going to get healthcare reform of that kind of having single payer is to get the small steps toward there to begin with. And so this isn't just about Obama filling his resume. I think that's a very cynical and insulting way of doing this. Obama genuinely wants to improve healthcare, and he has a healthcare bill that, far from perfect, will do some things to improve the healthcare system in America. And that kind of incremental change and incremental reform is precisely what Barack Obama is. He's not the revolutionary who's going to wipe out the existing system and bring us a great new revolution. He is a progressive politician who's going to bring us incremental reform. And the problem is that even that kind of incremental reform is very hard work given the kind of bias in our political system and our media. And so we need, I think, as progressives, to be part of a movement that's critical of Obama from the left, but that's also supporting these kind of incremental reforms. We can't afford to say, well, we're going to accept single payer or nothing. We're going to accept only the revolutionary change. We're not going to accept these kind of reforms because that's not a realistic understanding of where the progressive movement in its very weak form stands in America. And so Obama really is the best hope progressives have. He's not always much of a hope, but he's our best hope.
Okay, I'd like you to join me in thanking both of our speakers.